I'm 82 years old, and I've been awake since 3 this morning. That happens a lot now. The house is quiet in a way that feels permanent. The refrigerator hums. The pipes knock. I lie there staring at the ceiling, and I can't help counting what's left instead of what's been. When you get to my age, you don't think in years anymore. You think in seasons, maybe a handful of springs if you're lucky, maybe one more Christmas at the table, even if the table is smaller now. I spent 50 years chasing something I can't even touch anymore. Back then, I would have told you I was chasing security, respect, a good life for my family. That's what I called it. It sounded honorable, responsible, necessary. I was 26 when I decided I'd never be poor again. My father had died at 62, worn down and bent from factory work. I remember his hands, thick, cracked, permanently stained with grease. He never complained, but he was always tired. When he passed, there wasn't much left for my mother. A small insurance check, a house that needed repairs, a silence that settled into the walls. I promised myself I would build something bigger, something solid. I met my wife, Anna, when I was 28. She had this quiet way about her. She listened more than she talked, but when she laughed, it was full and sudden. We rented a small apartment with thin walls and a view of a parking lot. It didn't matter. We were young. We were together. In those early years, I was home for dinner almost every night. We'd sit at the little kitchen table, knees touching because there wasn't much room. We'd talk about nothing important, groceries, the neighbors, whether we could afford a second-hand couch. When our first son was born, I held him and felt something I can't quite describe. It wasn't pride exactly, it was fear. A sharp awareness that I was responsible for this tiny, breathing life. That fear is what started it. I took a promotion that required longer hours, more travel. It paid better, not much, but enough to make me feel like I was moving forward. I told Anna it was temporary, just until we got ahead. There's always a just until we pay off the car, just until we have some savings, just until the kids are in school, just until the next promotion. I was good at what I did. That's the dangerous part. The praise came quickly. My boss called me dependable, driven. I liked hearing that. I liked being the one they could count on. At home, Anna started putting dinner in the oven to keep it warm. At first, I'd make it back before the boys went to bed. I'd sit on the edge of their beds and listen to them tell me about their day, a spelling test, a scraped knee, a drawing they made at school. Then the trips started. 2 nights away, then 4, then a week. I missed my older son's first baseball game. I told myself he wouldn't remember. I missed a parent-teacher conference. Anna went alone and said it was fine. She always said it was fine. The house got bigger over the years. We moved out of that apartment into a 3-bedroom place with a yard, then a bigger house in a better neighborhood. Hardwood floors, a finished basement, a deck out back where we planned to have barbecues. I wasn't home for most of them. I remember one summer evening. I'd come back from a trip, tired but pleased with myself because I'd closed a deal that would mean a nice bonus. The sun was setting, and I could hear laughter from the backyard. Anna and the boys were out there, eating ice cream. The youngest had chocolate on his shirt. They were mid-conversation, and when I stepped onto the deck, they all looked up at once. There was a second, just a second, where I felt like a guest. They smiled. They made room for me. But the rhythm had already been set without me. I ignored that feeling. I told myself I was doing this for them. When the boys became teenagers, they stopped waiting up. They had their own lives, friends, games, music I didn't understand. I'd come home late and see their bedroom lights under the door. I'd think about knocking, but it felt awkward, like I was interrupting something. So I'd go downstairs and open my briefcase instead. Anna grew quieter over the years, not angry, not bitter, just quieter. We still slept in the same bed, but there was a carefulness to our conversations. Logistics mostly. Who's picking up who? What needs fixing? The mortgage, college funds. We were partners in a project. I thought that was enough. In my 40s, I hit what I had always aimed for. A title, an office with a door, a salary that made my younger self proud. We took a vacation to celebrate. A week at the beach. I brought my laptop. There's a photograph from that trip. Anna and the boys are standing by the water. The wind is in their hair. They're laughing. I'm in the corner of the frame, looking down at something in my hands. Probably an email. Probably nothing that mattered. I used to look at that picture and feel accomplished. Look what I provided, I'd think. Now I see what I missed. Time is strange. You don't feel it slipping. It's not dramatic. It's small decisions repeated every day. Stay late, take the call, book the flight, say, I'll make it up to you. You believe there will be a later. When the boys left for college, the house went quiet again. I assumed that was normal. Kids grow up. They leave. That's the goal, right? Anna and I sat at the kitchen table one night, just the two of us. The same table we'd replaced twice over the years. It felt too big. She asked me what I wanted to do now. I said, what do you mean? She said, with us. I didn't know how to answer. I had spent decades building a life around providing, achieving, climbing. I didn't know how to just be with her without a task attached to it. We tried, in our way. Dinners out, a short trip to the mountains. But we felt like polite strangers sharing memories instead of creating new ones. Then she got sick. It wasn't dramatic at first, just fatigue, a cough that wouldn't go away, doctor visits, tests, more tests. I was 67 when they told us it was cancer. Suddenly all the meetings, all the deals, all the promotions, none of them had weight anymore. They couldn't bargain with what was happening. They couldn't negotiate an extension. I retired that same year. I told myself I was finally doing the right thing. I drove her to every appointment. I sat in every waiting room. I held her hand during treatments. I cooked. I cleaned. I tried to learn the language of medications and side effects, but there was a distance I couldn't cross. One night, when the house was dark and she was thinner than I'd ever seen her, she looked at me and said, "You're here now." There was no accusation in her voice. That's what hurt the most. Just a statement. You're here now. She died 6 months later, quietly. Early in the morning, I was sitting in the chair by her bed, half asleep. The house has been too big ever since. The boys visit when they can. They have families of their own, jobs, responsibilities. I don't blame them. I taught them well. Work hard, get ahead, provide. They call on Sundays. We talk about practical things, the weather, the grandchildren's grades, the price of groceries. Sometimes there's a pause in the conversation, and I want to say something bigger. I want to tell them I'm sorry I wasn't at more games, that I should have knocked on their doors when their lights were still on. That success is a strange companion when you're eating dinner alone. But the words feel heavy, and I don't want to burden them. So I say, I'm proud of you. And I am. I walk through this house and see the evidence of what I chased, the framed certificates, the retirement plaque, the bank statements that prove I did well. They don't sit with me at night. If I could go back, I don't think I'd quit my job and move us into a cabin somewhere. That's not realistic. Life requires money. Responsibility is real. But I would have let some emails wait. I would have missed a meeting instead of a game. I would have sat at that kitchen table a little longer, even if there was nothing urgent to discuss. The thing I was chasing wasn't wrong in itself. Security matters. Providing matters. But I treated it like the only thing that mattered. I confused being needed at work with being loved at home. At 82, I understand something I didn't at 35. The people you think will always be there are the ones you have the least time with. Parents go, children grow, spouses get sick, bodies slow down, and suddenly you're counting seasons in a quiet house. I don't cry much anymore. The tears came hard in the first years after Anna died. Now it's more of a steady ache, a dull awareness that I had what I was looking for all along, and I kept stepping past it on my way to something shinier. Regret is a quiet thing. It doesn't shout. It sits beside you. If you're listening to me and you're younger, I won't tell you to quit your job or ignore your ambition. I know how the world works. I know the fear of not having enough. Just don't assume there will be time later to repair what you neglect now. Later is a fragile promise. I used to believe I was building a future. I didn't realize I was trading away a present. Now I wake up at 3 in the morning, and the house is still. I think about the small apartment with thin walls, about Anna's laugh, about little knees bumping under a tiny kitchen table. I had it then. I just didn't know it. If any of this sounds familiar to you, if you feel that tug in your chest when you hear your child's voice from the other room, don't ignore it. That tug is something real. I chased the wrong thing for 50 years. What I was looking for was sitting at the table, waiting for me to come home. And I did come home, just not early enough.